Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for the seven-figure entrepreneur who's looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Now, my co-host, Ted Fells, will not be joining us today. He is on travel. We wish him well and safe travels and all that good stuff. But today, we're talking about the 7 steps to uncover the warrior within. And again, and this is going to be one of those excuse busting episodes. That's right. Martin, from time to time, we have these episodes where people may be listening or watching and they have certain excuses in their mind as far as why they can't do certain things. But I think after they hear this episode, all the excuses go out the window. And you're going to focus on what can I do now? What's the next step I need to take?
That's right.
Yep. So definitely you want to tune in to this episode. We're going to get right to it.
Right. And why do it an hour, what you could do in a half hour, right?
Exactly. So the question is, right? Like, have you ever wasted time worrying about something that you can't control? Yeah, so we're going to talk about that because our guest, he's here to help you to move from being a worrier to becoming a warrior. For over the last decade, he's been the architect of the Warrior's Life code and has been helping entrepreneurs shift from worry and lack to abundance and being a life warrior. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Martin Salama.
Hello there, Eric. The crowd goes wild.
And the crowd goes wild. And I'm noticing we've got people that are joining in on the live video version of this. We ask that you definitely comment, ask questions as we go. But definitely, Martin, it is truly an honor to have you on the 30-minute hour. And really, I think people are going to be blessed by your story. And this is going to be great. So let's give them the backstory. Okay. So what was the vision that you had for your career back when you were an undergraduate at Brooklyn College?
Yeah. So when I went to Brooklyn College, it was kind of really doing what my parents wanted me to do. Go to college and then go into the family business or a business. At the time, when I first started college, it was the family business. While I was there, my father sold his business and was putting me into business with someone else. I came from an affluent community, and that was kind of things that would happen in our community. This was back in the 80s. I graduated college like in 1985. So that's the kind of thing that would happen back then. So for me, I was ready to go into work. And part of my story is that I was a people pleaser. And I did what my parents wanted me to do. And that comes back to something that happened when I was a child that made me that way. So I thought I knew what my path was going to be. And then I was going to finish college and start working in this business. And to tell you the truth, after a couple of years of being there, I wasn't loving it. And we weren't making money. And I felt like there was no way for me to move forward. So it was the first time that I ever kind of even thought of not pleasing my parents and trying to please myself. And I said, I'm leaving this company. We lost money here. I'm going to start a company. I'm going to start a business with somebody else. Because my mindset was to always be a businessman because that's the way life is, in the world I came from. So I was going to be a businessman.
Okay. So you were going to be a businessman. You weren't moving forward on your job. So like if you could go back to that time and become a mentor to that younger version of yourself, what advice would you give?
I would say really you've got to understand that you've got to go with your heart. You've got to go with what you believe is right for you. And don't worry about not pleasing everybody because what it took me 40 years to learn or 30 years from then was I was a people pleaser pleasing no one. So it was kind of like ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing that happens, I know I experienced this, is sometimes you see, sometimes it looks like the grass is greener or somebody's in an ideal career, but that might not necessarily be the thing that you need to do.
Right?
And I think you have to learn how to listen to that voice that's inside of you and what path should you really be on.
Exactly right. Exactly
Yep.
right. You don't know, and but as a 18, 19, 20-year old, 22-year old, whatever it was, I thought that this was the path I should take because that was the way I was taught. I would come up with things as I was growing up. Oh, I want to be a photographer. No, don't do that. Oh, I want to be an actor. No, don't do that. And my parents would discourage me. And then that people pleaser would come in and say, okay, I guess I'm not going to do that.
Okay. So let's get into the life experiences that kind of got you here. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
this is just amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about the life experiences and kind of what happened to you that
Okay.
really kind of shaped you into who you are right now.
Yeah. So I'm going along in business, and business for me was always like a roller coaster of financials, which as well ended up making me have a roller coaster of emotions,
Hmm.
right? Because I was like in the ups and the downs, and I didn't understand that there could be, instead of crazy waves, crazy roller coasters, it could be kind of like this if I allowed myself to be there. So it was 2008. And my wife and I were working on a project for 5 years to build a multi-million-dollar health club and tennis center in New Jersey by the Jersey Shore. And
Hmm.
it took us 5 years. And what happened was my wife came to me. I had just closed a business. And she's like, okay, you got to find something to do. And lately I've been playing tennis. I started taking tennis lessons, my wife said to me, and I can't find anywhere to play. I'm playing at 9, 10 o'clock at night because that's the only time I can get court time. She goes, maybe we should open up a tennis center and have multiple courts, to alleviate some of that. So the people pleaser in me, which is what I was my whole life, and then again with my wife, was okay, I want to make my wife happy. And I'm looking for a business to go into anyway. But here's the ironic thing, Eric. I'm not an athlete. You could actually call me an athletic supporter.
Wow.
I can't play. I can't play any sports, but I can watch any one of them. I can play what's going on at any one of them. So here I am getting ready to open up a tennis center. And it took us 5 years because we start the process. We got to find the land. Then we got to do a feasibility study. Does it make sense to do it? Then they go, yeah, it makes sense. But just doing tennis, you're not going to be profitable enough. You got to add other things like a health club so you can have a membership, like a spa, like a basketball court, a pool, blah, blah, blah. By the time we finished, it went from being 7 tennis courts to being 100,000 square foot, $15 million project,
Oh wow.
right? And it took us 5 years because then we had to find the land, then an architect and an engineer, and then go to the city and say, okay, this is what we're planning to do. And they're like, okay, sounds great. Now go get a civil engineer to tell us how's the traffic going to be affected? Do you have enough parking? And go through all this thing. And this took us 5 years. Now, if it was 2006 or 2007, walking into the bank and saying, hey, I need a loan, they were giving money away. It was
Right.
almost like going into Costco and having a free lunch. You know how you could go into Costco and have a free lunch?
Yep.
Yeah, you go and on the end of every aisle, there's a woman giving away samples. That's what it was with the money. And then in 2005, 6, 7, they were handing loans. I refinanced my house twice because they said, oh, you refinanced it for 500, we'll give you 750. Oh, 750 now 2 years later, it's worth $1 million. And that's part of how I funded the project,
Hmm.
as well as my own money that I had, plus investors' money and loans to the tune of over $3.5 million.
Mm.
Right? So now here it is. It's the summer of 2008. We get all the approvals from the city, and they're excited. We're excited. I walk into the bank. I go, we did it. We got it. And they're like, okay, but we're not lending right now. Like,
Oh,
what are you talking about? Last year you told me come back. We'll give you the money like it's nothing.
right.
Well, that was last year. Things are changing. Little did I know, a month later, Bernie Madoff, subprime loans, the financial world fell apart. And just like that, there was no money to be had. People like Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, they're out of business.
Yeah.
Well, a guy like me, what's my chances of surviving and all that? I put everything in here. I took a risk. They're talking about businessmen have to take risks. I took a risk. Unfortunately for me, it was at the wrong time. And just like that, I was wiped out.
Mm.
I got to tell you, I kind of went into a depression for about a year, a situational depression. I stopped paying my mortgage. I stopped paying my car payments. A few months later, my son says, Dad, look outside. They're towing away your car.
Mm.
That was a first for me. They were towing away my BMW. I was being repossessed.
Mm.
Oh, my God. Now, I happened to be, I guess you could call, we were lucky. We were living in New Jersey, and there were so many foreclosures because of what happened with the subprime loans that it took them years until they finally foreclosed and took possession of the house.
Mm.
But they finally did. So it took me a year, like I said, to get out of this depression. And when I did, I said, okay, what do I want to do now? And I started to realize that I never loved being a businessman. I never loved being that salesman, making the sale, going out to all over the country, showing the goods I was selling and trying to get them to sell. I never loved it. But what I did love was over my lifetime, thanks to my parents, I was always involved in community events. I was a community leader. And as such, people come in and say, I don't know how much I can do. I can't do what you're doing. It's like, hey, man, I don't want you to do what I'm doing. Give me a few hours. I'll show you how what you can do in that few hours will help the organization. What I was doing was I was cultivating their potential.
Mm.
I was being a life coach. Right?
Mm.
So I said, oh, maybe I should do that. So I started to look into life coaching. Found a company, found a school. Yeah, sorry.
So I'm just curious, right? So, like, was it so you got to the point where you lost your house and you had this rock bottom moment? I mean, like how long did it take you to go from that rock bottom moment to saying, okay, you know what? I feel like I need to be a life coach.
Yeah, it was about a year, a little over a year.
So total of a year. Okay.
But just when I thought I hit rock bottom,
Uh-huh.
I decided I'm going to become a life coach. And then about 2 or 3 months before the coaching training was going to start, it was my 24th wedding anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what my wife said to me? I want a divorce.
Mm.
Like, man, there's 364 other days you could have asked me for this. You had to do it on our anniversary.
Ooh.
A little cold,
Wow.
don't you think?
So let's paint this picture for people that are watching and
Yeah.
that are listening on the platforms. So you got to the point you lose your house,
Yeah.
you lose your car, and now your wife has asked for a divorce on your anniversary.
Right.
Oh.
Imagine how I felt.
So I'm just curious, like what was your self-talk like at that
I
time?
felt like the rug was pulled out from under me.
Yeah.
Again, it just happened. And here I am. Why does everything keep happening to me?
Huh.
Right? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But there was a little voice inside of me saying, you know what? And I think it was God. I really think it was God saying, you know what? You made this decision to go to coach training. You got them to take you. You got them to take a payment plan that could take forever to pay, but they saw your potential. So go. So do it. Do it anyway. And maybe you could figure out what happened in your marriage, what happened in your life, how you derailed. You know, these are the things that are going through my head. I'm like, okay. And like right before I went, they sent me a list of books. They emailed me. They said, read a couple of these books. One of them was The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Great book.
Great book, isn't it?
Great book.
For me, it was like a life changer.
Yeah.
When I read Don't Take Anything Personally, I felt like he was telling me a secret that the whole world had been telling me my entire life. But until that moment, I just wasn't ready to hear it. But when I heard it, it was as if it was booming in my ears. Hello, you get it now? So yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. And so now you're the architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code.
Right.
Can you explain like what that is and how it specifically helps entrepreneurs?
Right. So I went through coach training and I became, right after I finished, a divorce recovery coach. Makes sense. I just went through a divorce. You go with what you know. And I did this for a few years and I was having some success, but I'd also come to a low point where I gained so much weight that I was starting to become unhealthy. And I looked in the mirror one day and said, I got to change this. And I got to stop making excuses. I got to stop rationalizing why I can't do everything. And to me, the word rationalize is really two words: rational lies.
Mm,
You lie to yourself that it's rational to do things that go against what you know is the right thing to do because you want to figure out not to do it, or you want to make somebody else happy or whatever. You want to feed your ego. So I said, okay, that's it. And in 9 months, I lost 65 pounds.
mm,
And when I did that, I started reading better books. I started listening to people. I started getting coaching again because I was telling myself I can't afford to be coached. Now I realize I can't afford never to be coached again. I always have to be coached. Not being coached is a bad thing for anybody.
mm.
So you can't afford not to be coached. And I realized I was loving my life. I'm ADHD. So I was even doing things like meditating. Can you imagine an ADHD guy meditating? I'm like, when is this going to be over? But one of these days, I had this download of information while I was meditating. And I wrote after I meditated for 10 minutes with a guided meditation with the guy saying, okay, be calm. Look, I wrote for 2.5 hours. And what came out
Mm,
of that was the word life, because I was loving my life and I wanted to show other people. And for me, the Warriors Life Code stands for live incredibly full every day.
mm.
And that means having a happy life and having a meaningful life. Happy is self-care, self-love, even selfish in a positive way. Meaningful is selfless, giving to others, being of service. So I felt like that's what I wanted people to understand. You could live that life. You got to just move your mindset from the I can't to how can I or I can.
So how do you do that? Especially with entrepreneurs, sometimes like it's like you said, it's
Yeah.
how does the entrepreneur that's listening to us right now, how do they go from lack to abundance? What do they need to do?
Right. Right. Well, first thing they got to do is they got to wake up in the morning and say, I'm ready for the day. I'm excited for the day. I'm grateful. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Go out and buy one of those nice moleskin notebooks, ones that cost a couple of bucks, not just a flimsy notebook, and write 3 things you're grateful for. Then connect with God, connect with your higher power, whatever that is for you. And then have something that says, like, I'm looking forward to the day. For me, it's I live incredibly full every day. That's my mantra. And then go out there and look for the opportunities instead of looking for the problems. Walk
Mm,
into your office as an entrepreneur, whether you're a solopreneur or you have a team of people, and don't look at them as your employees. Look at them as your team. Look at them as they're working with you, and let them know you're their leader, but you're not their boss.
mm.
That you're working with them, and if you change the culture, you are the narrative. You control the narrative. So the narrative you get out there is what the people in your organization will do.
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I can agree 100%. Gratitude is the key.
Right.
Um, and then you mentioned meditation. So,
Yeah.
so what advice do you have for that person who keeps hearing about meditation? What's a good way to get started for somebody that is
Well,
considering that?
I got to tell you, the best way that I found for me, being that I couldn't keep myself focused, was a guided meditation, like an app like Headspace,
Hmm.
right? Where there's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you think you can handle, where you have a voice coming in your head and saying, okay, take a deep breath, clear your mind, all that stuff, and find one that works for you, and do that.
Okay,
That's
so
what it
finding
is.
an app like a
Yeah,
Headspace.
yeah.
And, and,
And
and what
here's
are
the
some of
thing.
what are some of the noticeable benefits that you notice? Like, man, this is a lot different since I've been meditating.
Yeah. So a lot of it has to do with it brings me to be more present and more mindful of who I am and who's around me.
Mm,
It's both, not just who I am, but also who's around me. And am I being present and mindful of that person? Am I being present and mindful of Eric Twiggs right now?
mhm.
Or am I thinking about 20 other things and being disrespectful to him without even realizing that I'm doing that?
Yes, it's interesting because I've been in like doing meditations where I'm focusing on my breath. And
Right.
it's not long. It's maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes here and
Right.
there. But I've noticed the difference. Like I've noticed that I have more clarity and more certainty when because there were certain decisions where maybe I wasn't as clear and certain, but I noticed all of a sudden it's like I'm very clear now. It's like okay, and I think that goes back to the meditation.
Yeah. It's a start. And
Yeah,
it's about recognizing that what the you have the control only of yourself.
yeah,
You can't control what other people are thinking. And part of my what I do with my clients is this series called Admission, Cleansing, and Celebration. Admission is admitting the way you're living now isn't working. Okay. Okay. So you admit it. Now what? You got to start cleansing. You got to start changing those habits that aren't working and replacing them with habits that do work. That's the cleansing. And then the celebration is even the little victories. Like I decided I'm going to lose 50 pounds. You don't wait till you lose 50 pounds. Celebrate when you hit 2 pounds, 5 pounds, and celebrate. That doesn't mean go out and eat, a whole pizza pie.
don't celebrate at the buffet. Is that what you're
There you
saying?
go. It's a free buffet, so why not? The more you can eat, guys.
No,
So,
you're go
yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead. I was just saying that's what it is: admission, cleansing, celebration.
Admission, cleansing, and celebration. And I agree 100%. You have to recognize those small wins.
Yeah.
And because those wins over time, they stack up and you build momentum, you build confidence. So you've also got something called the 7 steps to uncover the warrior within. And
Right.
I was intrigued by that. Tell us about that. What are those 7 steps?
Right. So the 7 steps, I took it as an acronym. I love acronyms. And here the acronym is uncover. Okay. By the way,
Uncover.
recently I came out with a card deck. Okay. It's called Warrior to Warrior, as well as my, thank goodness I can say, bestseller book, Warrior to Warrior. And on the card deck, I have it broken down, the 7 steps. Unlock and unleash you.
Hmm.
Unlock what's keeping you stuck and unleash the frustration you're holding on to so you can start your journey. That's part of the admission that I talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Navigate. N. Navigate how your emotional roller coaster is holding you back. So now you're getting into the cleansing. Choose the values that are most important to you. That's the C in uncover. O, again, continuing with the cleansing. Obtain the tools you need to correctly respond to all situations. For me, that was a big thing going from reacting to responding.
Mm.
Okay. Now you're moving on to the celebration. Visualize who you want to be from here on out. Okay. It's a mix of the cleansing and celebration. Now comes the real. E, embrace the new life you're creating and enjoy your endless potential. And then R, reclaim your strong, confident, happy life to live incredibly full every day.
Yeah, that's excellent. So unlock and unleash, navigate, choose, obtain, visualize, embrace, and reclaim.
Right. And in each one of these are the overall picture of it. We get into it, we discuss it. What are the things that are holding you back? Why are they holding you back? It's not a pity party, it's just a reflection.
Hmm.
Okay, what's holding me back? What were the things in the past? I'm not living in the past. I don't want you to live there. I want you to recognize what it was and change. For me, people pleaser, reactor, took things personally, control freak. And when all and always as a people pleaser, I was looking for the recognition. If everybody say, wow, you're the greatest guy in the world, you should be the president of the universe. But it doesn't work that way. It
Right.
just doesn't. So
So as you're working with people and you got
yeah,
the 7 steps, is there one of these that's the most common stumbling block, or which one of these would you say is the biggest area of struggle for most people?
the first two, the
Hmm.
you unlock and unleash and navigate.
Hmm.
Okay, because once you have some success with those two, you can build on it.
Hmm.
It's easy for someone to say, oh, it's a one off, it's a coincidence. There's no coincidences. Take it and build on it. But they're like, I can't. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened. I did this and then I took a step back. Okay, learn from it. Be aware of what happened and say, how can I be different next time? How can I react or respond better the next time?
Yeah, and you hit on something. I mean, the difference between reacting to something and responding is huge.
Huge,
Yep.
huge. Because the reaction is it's the emotions taking over you. The responding is you controlling your emotions. And if you can do that, then the world is right there for you.
Hmm.
Because that's what was for me. I was a reactor to the point you could even call me a nuclear reactor. I'd freak out and I'd leave fallout all over the place. My kids will tell you, God Almighty, the stuff he came out. And then the best is I turn around and say, I'm sorry I did that, Eric, but you set me off and you did this. And that's not an apology. That's you coming up with another rationalize.
Yeah, and I just from what I see in my work, I think it helps to have just an inside out approach, right?
Yep.
When things happen, to not always be looking to point blame outward. Okay, well, it was them, it was this customer, it was.
Right.
I think the first place you have to start is okay. What can I do different?
Right. Exactly. And
What
and
is it that I'm doing that's bringing this on?
exactly. And instead of saying, why is everything happening to me? Say everything happens through me.
Mm,
Right? I control my life. I control my destiny. Now, of course, every once in a while, things that are uncontrolled are going to be coming your way. But if you can keep your emotions when those things are happening, you can get through those rough waters much easier.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, I hope the entrepreneurs watching this are taking notes because I just think this is so critical.
Thank you.
The things that you're talking about can really help make a big difference, and I think they'll see a lot less of this if they
Exactly.
can.
Exactly. You want to be like this. You want to be on the seas that are calm, that once in a while there'll be a little chip, but your
Right.
emotion won't be going like this.
Yeah. So for those of you listening on the apps, we're talking about the roller coaster up and down motion that we
Right.
see in
And
business.
the choppy water.
Right, 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 right. All right. So can you share with us a memorable success story from one of your clients who applied your model?
Absolutely. So how about if I read what somebody like Josh said?
Sure.
So when I started working with Martin, I was ready to give up all hope of living a happy life. I thought this was my last shot, and if it didn't work, I would give up and become a tool for other people's happiness. I didn't understand that I had internal limiting beliefs and rational lies that were keeping me tied to my old way of thinking. Since I started working with Martin, I've gained positive clarity on life. I've accepted my own power and choice. I've taken responsibility for my choices, and let go of the choices that were not mine. I've decided to live in abundance and gratitude. Because of
Mm.
Martin, of these changes Martin taught me, I'm happier. I have better relationships. I have more clients because I'm being my real positive self. Looking back, all I wanted was hope that I could start to heal. Needless to say, I have that now.
Oh, that's
Isn't that beautiful?
fantastic. That's
Fantastic.
fantastic. You changed this. So how does that feel for you,
Oh
right?
my
To,
God.
you've seen someone who's here, you've given helped them with some tools. Sounds like you probably put the mirror in front of him, and
Yeah,
now he's here. How does that feel for you?
right. You know, when you see your child graduating and you know that they're going to be successful because they have all the tools, that's
Hmm.
what it's like. You're just giving this guy back his life. And now it's up to him to decide what he's going to do with it. And he's got the tools in his belt to do it.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
aha
so
moment is the
yeah,
best.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you impact somebody's life like that, and they're always going to look back to you as that person that really helped them get to the other side. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's good. So I know you're on different podcasts all the time,
Yeah.
right? And you get asked a lot of questions. I'm just curious, like what's one question that you never get asked that you wish people would ask you?
Oh, that's a good one. So I would have to say that the question I wish people would ask me that they've never asked is, why do you call it a journey and that never ends?
Hmm.
right? Because people think, out there, the people think, okay, I'm going to take his course, I'm going to be coached by him, and I'm going to hit my goal, and that's it. If that's it, then life is over. So it's because the question is, it's a journey because there's always something new. There's always something. When I set goals with my clients, when we get to 75%, I go, okay, it's time to reset the goals. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're almost there. Yeah, what's going to happen? You're going to cross the finish line and then you're going to say, okay, bury me now? No, you got to keep going. So it's a journey because the race is never over.
So it's interesting. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. What you see is that the people I work with, there's very few people that I work with or that I see that can have major success and still be hungry.
Right.
It's like they ease up a little bit. That's what kind of makes like a Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Tom Brady. They're unique because they can be at a point where they don't need to do anything.
Yep.
But they're still hungry. They're still working like they're trying to make their name. And I just think I don't see that a lot.
No,
People. Most people aren't hungry.
Right.
Is that something
Tom
you
Brady,
see?
as a matter of fact, right after he won his last Super Bowl, he put out there that his mantra every day is to read the 4 agreements every single day.
Interesting.
Every day. He's saying the guy's got everything. If he goes to sleep and never wakes up, if he never works another day in his life, he's good. But that's not the way he looks at it. That's the way LeBron looks at it. Not the way Michael looks at it. They look at it as every day is another day for me to make a change in myself and make a change in the world.
Yeah, so I know they somebody had asked Tom Brady after maybe number 4, number 5 championship. They said, you've had these championships. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you really look back at? And he said, the next one.
That's fantastic. That's an even better answer than I thought he was going to say. I love it.
So the next one.
Right.
So I think that key is to really stay hungry. And I think that goes back to what you said at the beginning, that you feel like everybody needs a coach.
Yeah.
Because I coach, because I see it with some of my people where when they were literally like deciding whether they were going to go out of business, they had a certain hunger. But now all of a sudden, they can payroll's not an issue anymore. They can travel. They don't have to be there all the time.
They're getting complacent.
Right. I can see them slowly taking their foot off the gas. And I'm like, no.
That's when it'll all fall apart. Because if you take your foot off the gas, you're going to slow down. And I have more than one coach in my life. I have different coaches for different things. You can't afford to not have a coach. Because the coach, at the end of the day, what I consider one of the most important things about a coach is that they are your accountability partner.
Yes.
Right? You're accountable to your wife. You're accountable to your boss or your partners or to your children. But you're never accountable to yourself because you're saying, well, I don't have time for me. You rationalize that it's okay not to take care of yourself. Now, if you have a coach in that spot, you go, wait a minute, I got to answer to Martin. I got to answer to Eric. But you're really answering to yourself. We just happen to be the placeholder for you.
Exactly. Okay. Well, good stuff. So we're coming down to the final segment. It's called Write This Down.
All right.
And this is where we each leave at least one takeaway from this episode that we want the people to write down so they can level up. So, Martin, I'll start with you. What do the people need to write down from this episode?
Well, based on what I said earlier, write down in the morning 3 things you're grateful for every single day. Don't skip a day. Every day. It could be, thank goodness my coffee tastes good today. I don't care what it is. Build on it. Thank God that the weather is nice out. Or thank you for the rain because we needed it to feed the plants. Whatever. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every single day. And if you really want to do it when you go to wake up and do it when you go to bed.
So, a lot of people won't do that because it sounds too simple. Right? Think about it. Like, we're always looking for complicated solutions.
Right? Really? That's what he's telling me to do? And don't complain. Write it down and stop complaining. Stop blaming. Stop looking for someone else to take responsibility. Take responsibility for yourself. Write it down and take responsibility.
There you go. Write it down and take responsibility. Write that down.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So my contribution to this is you have to look for the wins, right? Because you're going to find whatever you keep looking for. If you're looking for negativity, you'll find negativity. If you look for wins, and like I've worked with people, and I'll ask them, hey, so tell me about your wins since we spoke last, and they can't come up with anything. Literally can't come up with anything. And then over time, once they start to rewire how they're thinking, now I mean they can take our whole time together
Yeah, boom,
and
boom, boom,
tell
boom,
me about
boom.
all the
There's
great
three water.
things.
It's like bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
100%.
like I always tell people, the more you write your wins down, the more wins you'll have to write down.
That's right. Exactly. And one of
Just
my
getting
mentors, her name is Genevieve Davis, said, the world is as you see it. So if you
yes,
see it as opportunity, that's what it is. If you see it as problems, that's what it is.
absolutely. I mean, so these are things that people need to just implement. If you talk about making a list, writing down the things you're grateful for, and like I've taken a step further at times where I've focused on, okay, what are 5 things I'm grateful for that don't cost any money?
Fantastic.
Yeah. So you really have to think, but when you start thinking about it, and you start thinking about, oh man, my health, my family, my this, it puts you in a different. I don't think you can be grateful and stressed at the exact same time.
It's very hard. It's very
Right.
hard.
I don't think it's not. It's very hard to do, like you're saying. So I
Yeah.
just think that is critical, and I hope people embrace that. So can
Mhm.
you? You've given us a lot of great information. Your story is truly inspirational with what you've overcome. What's the best way for people to connect with you? They want to work
Well,
with
I
you.
made it simple because everybody asked me, how's a great way to connect with Martin? So I said, okay, how about connectwithmartin.com?
There you go. Connectwithmartin.com. There you go. And can
Right.
you put out the name of your book, the best-selling book
Sure.
you mentioned earlier?
It's called Warrior to Warrior. And when you go to the connectwithmartin.com, you can get the book, Warrior to Warrior. You could get the cards, Warrior to Warrior. You could also click on a button to have an appointment with me if you want for free for 30 minutes. And there are free gifts on there. Like, how about a coloring book on the 7 steps, the 7 things you could do to have an abundant warrior mindset? And the 7 steps are WARRIOR. A coloring book for you and a coloring book for the kids.
So this
Free.
again, this is one of those episodes you need to just go back and rewind and listen to, because
Thank
he's
you.
got a lot of structured content. L.I.F.E. He's got uncover with the 7 steps. So he's got specific things that you can do to really shift your mindset and ultimately start focusing on and attracting abundance.
That's right.
So definitely one that we need to go back and rewind and listen to. Thank you again, Martin, for everything that you shared. This has been a fantastic episode of the
Thank
30
you,
Minute
Eric.
Hour podcast. Speaking of sharing, hopefully people will not forget to share the show.
That's right. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. It's just like Martin said, sharing is caring. Caring. So make sure you share this episode. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe to this episode on the different podcasting platforms. We have Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those places. That way you never miss a future episode. But that's our time for today, for this week's episode of the 30-Minute Hour. Until next time, have a great one.